Your mission has to answer why, not what.
Yep.
What is cool? We're proud of the what that you do. We're proud of how you do it. But what's the why behind it? And if you can communicate your why, that why is going to influence a lot of different things.
Welcome to Rooted Barn Talks. I'm Amelia Ilo, and today we're going to be digging into mission, vision, and strategy with Chris Green of the People Work Company. Operating your business without clearly articulating these is sort of like going on a road trip without a map. How do you know where you're going? How should you get there? What do you need to be prepared for along the way? Except instead of a road trip, which might be fun to have an adventure on, you're actually trying to run and build a business to support your community. By the end of this episode, you should have a better understanding of the differences between mission, vision, and strategy and how they show up across your business and your operation. You should also walk away with some really helpful tools to get you started or to reframe this process for your own hub or farm business. Now, whether you're a grower, a hub leader, or a board member, you should find a lot of value and clarity from this conversation today. Let's dive in. Welcome, Chris Green. We're here, excited to talk with you today. I think we have had some other conversations with folks about a lot of different topics in this series of reviewing and refining and refocusing in our businesses in this sort of quieter season that we're going into, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere, where it's really an opportunity for us to step back from our businesses and especially kind of as farmers and as hub managers, we have a little bit more space to do that in these quieter winter months. And so in this series, I think one of the topics that we talked about was sort of this pyramid that we think of when we're running our business. And at the bottom, in one of those foundational areas of that pyramid is really systems. But I think kind of running along the side of the pyramid is this overarching idea of mission and vision and strategy. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And I think it's an element of managing our businesses that we can often overlook, and we can sort of get stuck in the weeds, right? And we're sort of in the day-to-day, and sometimes putting out fires and really thinking about what do I need to be focused on today or this week or this month or this season. But there's this need to zoom out. And also we don't always do it. So I think we're really excited to chat about this. It's an important conversation. Why don't you just share a little bit of your background and how you came to this and your company?
Yeah, cool. Thanks. It's awesome to be here, to be a part of this whole series. Short story on me is I had the privilege of finding myself in a lot of different boardrooms and executive team meetings and nonprofit rooms in Europe and here, where I got to see that across different industries, a lot of folks were coming up against the same problems. Didn't matter what the industry or the market was that they were trying to reach. The same problems kept resurfacing, same challenges, same questions. So that set me on a journey of trying to find, hey, how can I help? How can I be more than just somebody in the room, but somebody who can help in some way. So I sought out some people that were just recognized as master guides in helping people find strategic clarity, the kind of clarity that drives meaningful action. And I learned from them. I still am learning from them. But after years of doing that, I started to do that for other people as well. And started being invited into those same rooms, except now to facilitate the conversation. So that led to the formation of my company, the People Work Company. And now I have the privilege of working with great teams of people across a lot of different industries, from big to small, markets and operations, to come alongside them as a partner. Technically, the category of work that I fall under would be called consulting, but I don't consider myself a consultant because consultants come with the answers. I try to come with the right questions. There's a phrase that I say often, I believe thoroughly, that truth discovered is better than truth told. So if I'm coming at you with a bunch of answers and you're asking me questions, I'm telling you what to do, in the end, you're walking away with something some guy told you to do. But if I can come as a friend, as an ally, as a partner, and just help ask the right questions, the answers will be yours. They will have your unique perspective, or if it's a team, that unique perspective of a team. And that's where the winning strategy is. Any winning strategy is the one that works.
Yep.
And people tend to do the thing that they have the most buy-in in.
Right.
They have a little bit of skin in the game, if
Yep.
you will. So it's a win for me when I get to stand in rooms and lead those conversations that drive the clarity that everybody leaves super pumped about and really believing in. And then they go out and execute on the plans that have their personality and perspective and brand all over it.
Yeah. And I think it's important to mention you work with businesses across industries. So
Yes.
you're working
Yeah.
with nonprofits, you're working with startups, you're
Yeah.
working with healthcare, groups. You're working kind of across the board, and the problems are the same.
They're all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all the same. I am not an industry expert. I proved that at the Rooted workshop where I mentioned I used as reference points dandelions as a flower. Like, I don't know. Everybody's laughing. They're like, oh, fine, I don't know. I'm not offended by the fact that I don't know the specifics, but the challenges we encounter are 90% or more human challenges.
Yeah.
They are the results of human-created systems or dynamics of working together, or a lack of clarity in some big area. And if we can get in the room together and walk through the conversations, the answers become self-evident, and that's true across any industry. There's uniqueness to every company and every industry, but the core problems are often the same. So
Yeah.
I'm not a content expert. I don't really like the word expert, but I'm a process expert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in our conversation today, the goal is we're getting in the room and we're starting a dialogue around this. So by the end of this chat, I think our goal is that anybody listening begins to start to think about the process and has some tools to walk away with to start to say, how do I really start to reframe how I'm thinking about that? And we'll have a resource, a visual to help you in the show notes if you're listening, and to help you start to think about maybe what's going really well and what's not going as well. Just because I think that's a core piece of how you approach this process.
Absolutely.
And something that folks can take away themselves and take back into their businesses. So let's dive in. I think when we think about these, it can sometimes be difficult to define for those of us who are not like really well versed in this vocabulary. And so we hear often it's just kind of part of the vernacular, mission, vision, and strategy. But I think I'm particularly interested in the mission and vision right up front here, because those can be hard to tease apart.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how you think about vision and how that's maybe different from like having a to-do list or having sort of like what does that having a vision mean to you?
Yeah. No, you're right to call that out. It gets confusing. For me, they are very distinct. Some people like to use them interchangeably, and there's been a lot written on all of them. But I think the consensus on what these are has moved to something really simple. Mission is simply your purpose. When you're trying to state your mission, you're trying to say, this is why we exist.
Yeah.
This is going to be true of us in any season, in any market. Our name means we do this.
Yeah.
If we stop doing that, we cease to be who we are. In the process that I lead, it's called StratOp. We drive to answering that question. You should be able to say your mission in 12 words or less.
Yep.
So that's because you're answering why. You're not answering how we do it. You're not answering where this came from. You're just saying this is why we exist. Vision is something different. Vision looks out into the future and says, if we live this mission out, generally we work with 3-year time frames, because who's planning for 20 years anymore, right? Or even 10 years. So we'll work in a 3-year time frame. So when we're answering vision, we're saying, hey, if we live this mission out 3 years into the future, what are we looking at? So a simple definition of vision is a picture of the future that we desire to create. This is what we do. To kind of give you an idea of what that looks like, we're not trying to craft vision statements. That's a waste of energy and time. The minute you write it down, it's some lofty thing. It's got feelings and fluff all over it. And cool, if that, if that's helpful to you to kind of motivate you, go for it. But we're looking to create something a little bit more practical, something that's going to drive decision making, something that's going to influence the actions we take along the way. So when we're creating vision, I'll often use the example, hey, let's pretend we step in a time machine. This is your mission. We're taking your mission with you. We get out 3 years into the future. Tell me what you see. So we're always articulating vision with nouns. We don't want to say things like a greater share of the market or 100 employees or whatever that might look like. Though those can be, those are good. Like maybe we want to reach for that, but we're going to define the person, places, or things that we see. When I step 3 years into the future, I see, maybe for a hub, it's going from, or its current state, let's say it's 10 growers. I see 30 growers in 3 years.
Yep.
I see a physical location where everybody knows the people who do that, I can find them there. We're looking for the specific nouns.
And it doesn't have to be polished. Like it
No.
does not have to be perfect.
Please don't make it polished.
Right.
Yeah. Because this, again, if we're not trying to create a vision statement, we're not trying to create something that's going to go on a plaque somewhere. I would even say your vision statement isn't necessarily something you're communicating on your website.
Yep.
This is the essential piece, and just after you've defined why you exist, your vision is the second most important piece that's going to drive the strategic clarity you need. And it's going to influence all your big and small decisions along the way.
What would you say to people who say, oh, that sounds really, kind of foofy and like that's probably not worth my really important stuff that I need to be focused on?
Yeah.
I've got, why should I put my time into building and codifying my mission and my vision? Why is that important?
Because if you don't, circumstances will do it for you. It's going to get done.
Yep.
One way or the other. You're going to have a mission, but your mission is probably going to look something more like survive, or it's going to look something like keep these people happy all the time, or it's going to look something like just don't fail, right?
Yep.
Those will be the internal motivations that are driving us.
Yep.
If we articulate it, then we've got it out in front of us. Something happens that's pretty powerful when we say it out loud too, like this is what I'm doing. This is what we do together, guys. Come on, team.
Yep.
Something powerful happens when we say it out loud. If you don't take the time, in regards to vision, if we don't take the time to articulate the direction we want to grow in, anything we do is okay. Right? There's no, we have no filter for determining, hey, is this a good thing to do? Is this the right thing to do or not?
Yep.
So if you don't know where you're going, any step will do.
Can I add one thing to that? So we've worked together in this capacity. So this, I think our team is really familiar with your process and also really appreciates the value of this. One of the things that I think we got out of that sort of articulation of our mission and of our vision is that there were a couple of us, like we all kind of generally knew what our mission was, but didn't actually write it down.
Can I tell this story from my perspective?
Go for it. Yeah.
Because I knew coming into working, doing StratUp with you guys, I knew coming in that you guys were very proud of your mission.
Yeah.
And it was almost, in our pre-conversations, it was almost like, hey, we don't need to,
we
don't really need to mess with that.
Yeah, it was like, we already know why we're here.
And of course, it was a paragraph long, which immediately said to me, we don't really know what we're doing, but we feel good about what we wrote. So, cool. So we get to that point in the process, which is, I think, the morning of day 2.
Yep.
And I'm looking at things, and I said, hey, I know we know what we're happy about our mission. Can you humor me? And you both were like, sure, we'll humor you. I said, cool, you got a great mission. We love it. It's so, like, there was a little bit of, and then I said, great, tell me what it is.
Yeah.
Crickets.
We couldn't,
you couldn't say
neither of us could say it. So
Which
there were a
such
couple of
common
us in the
thing.
room who were going through it, and we could not, we were like, shoot, we can't.
We know it has this word in it and that word, and and so.
But it also meant no one else on our team could do it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. The people who wrote it and crafted and heart and soul poured in that direction. Yeah. So it was a 30-minute exercise. It's always, it generally doesn't go more than 30 minutes. And within 30 minutes, we worded that down to, I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but to empower small and mid-sized farms to change the world.
Yeah.
Something like that.
To transform the, exactly. To transform the world.
Yeah. Yeah, even I remember it, and I haven't read it since the time that we wrote
I
it down.
remember it and I don't remember
Yeah.
words. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's
So, but
it's
that's
really
the-
powerful.
And that's the power of a mission. Once you're able to articulate it, and notice you didn't say to create great software.
Right.
There was a greater heartbeat behind it.
Yep.
That Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, is a great thing.
Yeah.
Your mission has to answer why, not what.
Yep.
What is cool. We're proud of the what that you do. We're proud of how you do it. But what's the why behind it? And if you
Right.
can communicate your why, that why is going to influence a lot of different things.
It also gives us a reference point. So as opportunities come our way or as challenges come our way, not only we kind of on like the leadership side, but the entire team can look to the mission
Yeah.
and they can look to the vision and say, does this serve the goals that we've set out and why we're here and what we're doing? And if it doesn't, it's an easy no.
Exactly.
It's just an easy, this isn't why we're here.
Yeah.
This doesn't need to happen.
Even if it's a good thing.
Right.
Even if it's a good thing that you could do
Yep.
and that you have the resources to do, if it falls outside your mission and your vision, and I would also add in their core values, if it falls outside of that, then it's an easy tool. So many leaders struggle with the fatigue of decision making. It just wears on you.
Right.
Why not solve that out ahead of the questions that come to you and immediately decide, unless it falls within this lane,
Right.
we're just not going to do it. So that's what mission does. That's what vision really does. Like,
Perfect.
just say one
Yeah,
more thing
yeah.
about vision. If we know where we're going, then the big and small decisions today they almost become obvious.
Right.
Like we're not trying to make it up as we go. It becomes a filter for decision making. The workshop we just did.
Yeah, so just so everybody kind of has context there. So we've worked with you as our team. We've also brought you in to work with our hubs and
Yeah.
to workshop some of this process with them
Yeah.
so that they can take this and bring it back to their own communities.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the workshop, that's what you're referencing
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Yeah. So we're in the room, we're talking about vision. And everybody's got some great ideas. And it's my job to kind of push the ideas farther.
Yep.
Really, when we're talking about vision, when we're thinking about it, we shouldn't be limited by what's reasonable to expect, right?
And there's a tendency among us as hub managers to sort of
Yeah.
play it safe a little bit
Of
sometimes,
course.
right?
Yeah, of course. And I don't think it's just hub managers. I think it's anybody who's responsible for anything. You feel the weight of responsibility, so you want to be bold, but you also recognize the consequences of failure, and you
Right.
don't want to meet those consequences. So we tend to hedge our bets a lot. So one of my favorite exercises is pushing people to think beyond that.
Yep.
But so then some things get named as we're talking together. Some big things get named that would, yes, when I go 3 years into the future, this is what I see. But when we start articulating our vision, there's one person, I see her face, I forget her name, but she wanted a bucket washing station. I thought that was great. I'd never
Yeah.
heard of that. Like, tell me more about the bucket washing station. But once we went through the exercise of articulating that, she realized we don't need a bucket washing station today. Like, that was something that she had been thinking about, maybe
Yep.
thinking, do I need to invest money in this? Like, this is spinning around in her brain. But
Yep.
once she articulated a vision within a reasonable time frame, 3 years, she realized that falls outside of that. So what do? We park that to the side. And now we can move forward and make decisions based really on where we want to go, not on all the cool or nice things or even helpful things that we could do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess a nice segue into sort of how we translate that into like our culture and kind of like create a culture of really living that mission and that vision is the question of how do you build that sort of group buy-in when you're working with a team. So our hubs are often somewhere between 2 and 10 people who are kind of all working together to really push forward the day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
How do you create that sort of shared ownership
Yeah.
among teams like that?
Yeah, it's a really good question because I think we've grown up with this idea of vision casting. Like, there has to be this leader that comes with this aura about them and they just like articulate this inspiring vision. And thank God for people like that. They've moved humanity forward in a lot of significant ways, but that's not really what successful vision looks like on a day-to-day
Yeah.
type of moving forward, one step at a time kind of way. There's another principle that drives this whole conversation, and it's people help build what they help create. If we want people to have buy-in, they have to be a part of the process. Otherwise, you're telling them what to do,
Yep.
and they don't really get to help shape the direction that we move in. So your question was how
do you create that buy-in?
You-
Like, how do you create the ownership
Yeah.
across an entire team?
You get them in the room together, and this can be tricky if you're a founder, because as a founder, maybe you don't want to give away the vision, right? You want to, why you got into this. Like the blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into everything that you're doing. But if you want this to grow bigger than just your own energy beyond your own capacity, you have to bring other people in.
Yeah.
That is your biggest mitigation against the risk of burnout and against the risk of failure, is you bring other people alongside you. So you get in a room, and when I'm in the room with people, there might be some vision that has already been articulated. We'll throw that out in front of everybody.
Yep.
But then we really get everybody an equal seat at the table to say, hey, this is our mission. This is the direction we want to go in. You all tell me the nouns.
Yeah.
Like, let's just throw things up on a board, like the expression, throw spaghetti against the wall. Like,
Right.
Let's just see what sticks. You get them in the room. You have to let people have a voice in the process. That doesn't mean that everything that everyone said gets done, but the end result of that process, whatever it is we land on, and sometimes it's good to have that strategic outsider to be the filter and to work alongside you as the founder, but whatever we land on, at the very least, the shared perspective
Yep.
was there in the room, and we have some shared language, and we have the shared story of how that came about. We all remember where the conversation was when we wrote that. We remember all the different things in the perspective that we had gained, how that fed into that. So that's the big thing, the shared perspective,
Yep.
the shared language, and the shared story. That's how you really create vision that more people can own, and that you as the leader can drive, you can influence in all the significant ways you need to.
And you can use that not only in sort of decisions about the business, like, is this an opportunity to go after, but you can also use it in hiring, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, where the thing that you create together becomes the thing we own together. So if you own it together, as you're onboarding people, you get to say, hey, this is where we're headed. Maybe you want to share the story of how we got there. Say, hey, you're new. Maybe you're not going to be in the room today.
Yep.
That has those decision making, but we just want to let you know, this is something we create together.
Yep.
And you got to be able to play into this vision.
Yep.
And we want you to be able to play the way we play.
Right.
You got to be a part of the team here. And it's a great way. I don't think we do it enough. We're usually, when we're hiring, we're looking for a hole that needs filling or a task that needs doing. But if we know where we're going and we're clear about what our mission is, that becomes a filter for the kind of people we want to go with us, not necessarily just the tasks we need doing.
We're in an industry where, I think turnover is just a reality. And my experience, and I'm curious if this is just sort of, if we're, an outlier on this, or if this is pretty universal, but my experience is that the more you share this process, the more you give people a voice, the more you kind of create that buy-in and that culture around your mission and your vision, especially in our industry, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is a space where nobody is in this for anything other than their mission, right?
Yeah,
Whether or not you've
yeah.
articulated, like, there are clear reasons why you
Yeah.
show up every day and do the things that you're doing. This isn't like, I'm not going to pick on any specific industry, but like, this isn't like a job where you just clock in 9 to 5 and you're out and like you never think about it again, right?
Yeah,
That's not
yeah.
this. So one of the benefits, I think, can be to inviting other people into that
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
You actually reduce your turnover because you've created this culture where
Yeah.
people really are bought in and they really deeply care.
Yeah, totally.
Even if maybe you can't pay them like top-notch dollars, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've created this shared experience that
Yeah.
you're building toward.
Yeah, you're living a shared story. Like, we're all at the most fundamental level. I think we're all looking for the place where we belong, and we're
Yeah.
looking for the people to whom we belong.
Yeah.
and there, in the chaotic world that we live in, there's a lot of, everybody's on their own individual journey. This is true, but we've never really thought about it, I think, as individualistic as we do these days.
Yep.
By crafting something together and by inviting people into that, you're saying, hey, we just don't want you because of your performance.
Yep.
We love your performance. We're hiring your performance, but we're also hiring you. We're bringing you on the team to be a part of this story that we're making together. And we want you to love the story. We want you to love what we're doing. We want you to care about the story that other people tell about us too.
Yep.
Like this is bigger than you.
Right.
And if that's not a fit for you, then I wish you success.
Yeah.
You can. There's other places you can go.
Right.
I think it also elevates our perception of ourselves and the value we bring to the world.
Yep.
This is our story. This is our mission and vision. These are the ways we go about it. So it's a privilege for you, or it's a privilege for us to work with you, but it's also a privilege for you to work with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, so we've talked about, the mission and the vision can really, they can help arm your team as they're having conversations with customers. They can give you sort of a shared language and a way for you to really communicate about decisions that you're making and hiring. They can also inform your strategy. So I think hearing a little bit from you about how strategy touches both mission and vision, and kind of how you move from thinking super high level of like, why are we here, existential questions, into more granular, okay, how does that translate into strategy?
Yeah. What's the question in that?
I think hearing from you how strategy relates to both of those. How do you draw vision and mission into strategy?
Into the execution.
Yeah, and into that sort of like, how does this frame now? Okay, we have an idea. We know why we're here.
Yeah.
We have an idea of where we want to be in 3 years. Now we need to draw the roadmap of how to get there.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying that. That's great. So in the strategic process, there's really 5 questions we're trying to answer, and we've already talked about 2 of them. One of them really, the first one we kind of skipped over a little bit. There's 5 questions. The first is, where are we now? Gaining perspective on your current state.
Yep.
You almost cannot get enough perspective.
Yep.
It matters who you get it from, for sure. It matters where you get it, but I tell leaders, you might be chief executive officers, but you're chief perspective gatherers too.
Yep.
Like, get the perspective, ask the questions, get people, just get the truth on the table. Where are we now? Where do we want to go? Right, that's the question of vision.
Yep.
And how we're gonna get there, which is the third question really. How are we going to get there? And to a certain extent, who is getting there with us?
Right.
Actually, that's the fourth question. So where are we now? Where are we headed? What's important now is the third question. That might be the hardest question to answer because you're filtering through all these possibilities. But if you've done the work in perspective and you've done the work in determining where we're headed, that what's important now, that is the strategic plan process.
Yeah.
Those 2 things lead to a discovery of your strategy. By defining what's important now, you're saying there's a lot of things that we could do, a lot of things that are important, but here's what's important now.
Yep.
If you have more than 3 things on that list, you probably need to get a couple off.
Say that again,
If
because
you
that's
have more
really
than-
important. I want to drive it home.
If you have more than 2 or 3 important things, they probably aren't equally important. They're probably not all as important as you think they are.
Yep.
You can only, especially in like a beginning phase,
Yep.
you can really only put strategic effort into 1, 2, or 3 things because you've got a whirlwind of daily activity happening too. You can't stop doing business so you can start working on strategy. That has to be woven into the fabric of the things that you do every day.
So how do you then identify those 1, 2, or 3 things where you really need to be focused now?
Yeah, that's where the perspective comes in handy.
Yep.
Where the perspective is essential, and where a group of people working together to get that perspective is essential, and by articulating where we go. Those 2 things, it's amazing. If you'll spend the majority of your time on those first 2 things, the plan almost writes itself.
Yeah.
Almost. It needs a little bit of intentionality, but it almost writes itself. What's important now becomes self-evident. After you've defined what's important now, you're saying, who are the people responsible for the action, and what are the timelines responsible for the action. And the fifth question is to answer, how are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to know, how are we doing?
So this is not a one and done exercise. We're
No.
really revisiting this on a regular basis.
No, and notice that only one of those was actually the strategic plan.
Yeah.
Right? The first one is perspective gaining. The second one is vision defining. The third one is defining, what's our strategy today?
Yep.
The fourth question is, the who and the what. This is more execution.
Yep.
So plans do not self-execute.
Right.
It's just a thing on paper unless you put action behind it. And if you're going to put action behind it, you have to have a person responsible and a deadline.
Yeah.
And then you have to say, how are we doing? I'll get pushback. It doesn't matter the industry. I'll get pushback on this. You need to have, as a leader, you need to know monthly where things are. As a team, you should be evaluating quarterly how we're doing. And at least annually, you are revisiting your strategy.
And I think you introduced it right at the top, where you talked about kind of the process you're using is StratUp. And here, it's really, the end goal is not to just sort of live in this like pie in the sky mission vision, like great strategy. It's like, okay, how do we operationalize for our day to day to be able to execute on a regular basis with clarity? That's the goal, is to operationalize that strategy.
Yeah.
And so, I think it can feel, hopefully less overwhelming, but I think it can feel overwhelming to folks who feel like they're in survival mode. So I guess, the question there would be, what advice do you give to a farmer or to a hub who's listening and thinking, I have no time, or how do I create space to go through this exercise? Is this really important for me to be doing right now?
Yeah. That's a really, really good question. If you're in survival mode, you shouldn't be spending your time thinking about vision. You don't have the time to. You got things to attend to. That's going to come. If you're in survival mode, the first thing that you really have to do is get perspective. You have to, and that includes perspective on the things that are going well. We use a tool called 4 Helpful Lists that we're going to give to the listeners. And we start by asking, hey, what's going right?
Yeah.
And then we go through 3 other questions that help us get our finger on the pulse of the current state of everything. So the first step, if you're in survival mode, is get perspective. The second is get prioritized. You can't do everything at once. So again, what's important now? If the only thing someone does is go through the 4 Helpful Lists template of getting perspective, and then determines action, what's the action we could take, that's going to be enough to start getting traction again.
Yeah.
Instead of spinning in the mud, as it were. The third step to get out of survival mode is really get rhythm. So get perspective, get prioritized, and get rhythm. There is a cadence that is possible on the other side of survival mode.
Yeah.
And you should be in pursuit of that cadence. You should not be in pursuit of growing big.
Right.
Survival mode is not sustainable for a long time. So the main goal is to get out of survival mode. So just get a little bit of perspective, get the priorities from that perspective, and work towards getting a rhythm so that you can breathe again, and you can kind of lift your head up above the water, and then that's when you step into, okay, now that I'm not as worried about this as I was last month, right? Or maybe even last week, now I can kind of breathe again. Now let's look at, okay, what does this look like over the next 6 months, or 12, or 18, and then on from there. Yeah.
And so in our business, where we're really very seasonal, going into spring, we're kind of really heading up into this steep ramp that happens that runs through the summer and fall. And then we kind of hit this sort of more less survival mode state once we get to October, November, December, right? And so this is a great time of year in this industry specifically to really be thinking about, okay, how do I get to a place where I can breathe and I can kind of think about starting to get that perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When is the best time to do that? Today. Like, just do.
Yep.
You'll never be sorry for taking an hour to get perspective. So especially to those in survival mode, I don't want people to feel unempowered or discouraged, well, I can't do that now.
Right.
You can, no matter how bad things are going, you can take an hour.
Yep.
Take an hour and just sit down and use the template and take your time. Use the full hour, please. Don't just rush through it. Get the perspective and see what kind of clarity emerges. And I've seen it every time. With clarity comes a sense of peace too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this isn't chaotic.
Right.
I can actually tame the chaos here.
Right.
And find my way forward.
So I'm curious, there are going to be folks who are listening who maybe operate with a board, and you know, they're needing to kind of bridge that relationship as they're kind of managing. And often even the board can be prescriptive about strategy and direction and kind of how, you know, on which trajectory are they moving.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, you know, I think there are times where we see that sometimes things can be mistaken for strategy where it actually isn't always kind of the strategy that we're talking about here. And I'm curious what the warning signs or symptoms of a business operating without a true strategy or without real clarity there for that longer term vision.
Yeah.
What might folks look for in their own businesses and their own teams to kind of clue them into, maybe you think you have this, but actually it's probably worth revisiting?
Yeah, totally.
Are there warning signs there? Are there kind of symptoms of a business that you think might be flailing a little bit?
Yeah, totally. Usually if the vision is articulated in pretty words, but it doesn't help you, that's a warning sign right there.
Yeah.
If your board wants something that looks good in marketing pieces or it sells well, but actually doesn't help you operationally, that's already a sign that you need to ask more from your board. I don't want to say, you know, go against your board. That's not going to be helpful for you long term. The goal is to win them over in whatever you want to do. So you need to ask more from your board. Another sign would be if you feel like you've got gross misalignment in your team or there's a huge disconnect between you and your board. You don't feel like if you've ever thought the thing, my board doesn't understand what I'm doing. It's on you to solve that. It's not on your board to solve it because they're busy doing other things. This is your thing. So if there's misalignment between you and your board or misalignment between you and the people you're working with, if there are metrics for success given to you that don't align with your actual mission and your vision, then that's a sign that there's a strategy miscommunication somewhere. Where someone is giving something to you, prescribing something to you, as opposed to it emerging out of the mission of the organization. Burnout is going to be a telltale sign of lacking strategy. Because again, if you don't know where you're going, any direction will do. And if any direction will do, I've got to do it all. And that's probably pretty common among solopreneur type of startup phases or small team phases for sure.
I think it can also be common in this industry where, you know, we're feeling a lot of pressure to please a lot of different parties all the time. We've got our growers, we've got our team, we've got all of our buyers, we maybe have our board, and it can feel like we sort of have to be everything to everyone. So it's probably a similar dynamic to what you would see in that solopreneur.
Very similar.
How often do you feel like a hub should be revisiting these questions? And so, like, you know, everything from mission to vision to strategy. What does that cadence look like?
So your mission should be pretty solid. It should be so well articulated that it doesn't need to change. In fact, it should be so well articulated that a change to the mission is almost cataclysmic for it should be that foundational.
It's that foundational to the organization.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we focus on 12 words or less, because you really only have the time to say one thing. And so if you change that one thing, you've changed something. Your vision, you should be observing or revisiting your vision. I would say as an individual, as the primary leader, I'd say you got to at least just do a read on it. I mean, at least once a month. You got to keep that front of, especially when it's in those seasons where you get in the weeds, just create the discipline of getting your head out of the weeds and looking at
I want to dial in on that for a second because once a month can sound like, what the heck, that's so much. But actually, like, that is when we're talking about this reviewing and refining and refocusing, that's your refocus. It's like, let me refocus in. This is a reminder of what we're doing, why we're doing it, where we're going.
Yeah, but just to push on that a little bit more,
Yeah.
You would not say that about watering a plant.
Mm-hmm.
You would not say, oh, once a week, that's too much to, I don't know, weed.
Right.
You know, the things, if you took care of your business the way you take care of your flowers or your food, your garden, your farm, you would see the same things happening in your business.
Yeah.
So I think the key there is not to think of it as an add-on. Think of it as, hey, this is a part of what I do that needs tending.
Right.
And if I don't do it, the weeds are going to take over. And what are the weeds? It's the tyranny of the urgent.
Yep.
It is the complaints that come in by the email, the misalignment with the board.
Yep.
They're like, you need to do this now. It's all those things that come. Those are the weeds in business world, in the world of operating your business, your hub. So you have to give that the same attention that you do everything else. And I would even say, and I said this at the workshop, I think that hub leaders or collective leaders or growers, you are already uniquely positioned to understand these things because you work with the stuff of growth in your industry all the time. If again, the same things, if you tend to them in the same ways.
All the same principles.
Yeah. What is perspective gaining? It's testing the soil.
Yep.
Right. What do I need to add to the soil in order to get it? But let me just read where things are at.
Yep.
Let me pay attention to the seasons. Is this a time to plant or a time to harvest? Right. You pay attention to all that. So you should be getting your eyes on your vision at least once a month.
Yep.
You should be doing that as a team at least once a quarter. And just saying, it doesn't have to be like team meeting, like, hey, pep rally kind of thing. Just say, guys, there's a lot going on. Let's just take a step. Let's remember where we're headed.
Right.
And look at these cool things. Look at the things that happened over the last quarter. It looks like we are leaning in that direction.
Yep.
Annually is when you really need to sit back and, hey, how's our strategic plan going? Where do we need to make an adjustment? A strategic plan needs to be stable but not static.
Yeah.
We don't put it in stone. It's a living thing. We adapt because things are changing all around us. But you also got to give things time to work, right? You got to see if it's going to stick before you uproot it and try to do something different.
You can't just expect instantaneous results from some of these changes.
No. I don't know. Do you feel like in farming, I feel like you also have the advantage of having to have cultivated patience. And I think that's something that like we get challenged as a leader.
Yeah.
But you're forced, because there's so many things outside of your control, you're forced to be patient. And so that's not something I tend to worry about too much with you and those in your industry, but it's definitely something to be aware of.
For sure.
Give it time. See how it takes root and see how it grows.
I think, as we're thinking about wrapping up, I'm curious if there are there any questions? Is there like one question that you feel like every hub leader or manager or somebody on the board should be able to answer about their own strategy right now?
Yeah. 100%.
And if they can't answer it clearly, are there signals kind of that they should be doing some of this deeper work?
Yeah. If you can't answer this question, I think it is the signal.
Yeah.
If you can't answer what's important now, then if you don't know what's important now, then what are you doing?
Right.
You're doing what things are telling you to do.
Yeah.
And that's something, there's always things to do. But especially as a hub leader or a primary leader in anything, if you don't set out what's important now, who's going to?
The loudest voice.
The loudest
in the
voice.
room.
Always.
Yeah. Always.
Or the financial report that came in and it wasn't what it's supposed to be, and now you got people breathing down your neck in some way.
Right.
You have to be able to answer what's important now.
Yeah.
You should at least be able to name one thing. If you name 5 things, you haven't determined what's important now.
Right.
At least one thing.
Right.
And then you just take action on that. The follow-up question is, okay, so what are we doing about it?
Right.
And how is it going?
Right.
Yeah, but what's important now is the question. If you can't answer that, then it's time to step back, get some perspective, bring some other people alongside you to get that perspective, and start formulating the answer to that question. Hey, what's important now?
I think that's great. That's a really helpful litmus test for us to just sort of look at our businesses and think about, is it worth it for me to dive into some of this?
Yeah.
And I think probably for most of us, this is a more neglected area of our business, and it The answer to that question is probably a yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Uh-oh, yes.
Why do you think that's a more neglected part for you? Why is that such a hard question to answer?
I think that it can be a really hard, it can feel nebulous. So it can feel like this sort of like abstract, bigger picture thing.
Yeah.
And I also think that we generally will have a tendency in this industry to follow what is urgent and not always what's important. And those two things are not the same.
Yeah.
And so there's a tendency for us to sort of address the urgent, sometimes at the expense of the important. And that can be really tempting. And it can also feel crucial for us because the stakes feel very high, right?
Yeah.
And so if we neglect the urgent at the expense of the important, when those things conflict, it feels like the right thing to do. And so there can be this tendency to move in that direction. And if you do that over and over and over again, you never do the important work.
It's like the dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
Like if you take care of something that's urgent, it feels good, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Especially if you like checklists. I know you like checklists. Like
I love
check,
checklists.
Done.
Totally.
And the urgent gives us that immediate satisfaction.
Yes.
That's why I think it's so important to take what's important, to define what's important now, and put it out in front of you, so that you have this constant reminder. Hey, the urgent has to bow before the important. At the end of the day, like that comes second to what's important now.
Yep.
And then lean into that and find, if you do it, in the beginning, I agree, it feels nebulous. But if you develop that rhythm or that cadence of looking at it, of defining it, getting perspective, then all of a sudden you realize, wow, as I do that, I'm getting decision-making reps under my belt that are aligned with that, and that feels really good.
Yeah.
And that actually feels much more significant. It's much more, I think it's so satisfying to say no to something because it doesn't align with where we're going.
Right.
And that just trumps all of that urgent, like, checklisting.
Absolutely.
That happens, yeah.
And I think it can be helpful tactically to even just put time on your calendar. Pick a time next week or 2 weeks and 3 weeks, however far out you need to go on your calendar to find an hour or a couple of hours. And
First
sit
Monday
down.
of the month. Whatever. Yeah.
And just block that time so that it holds a place and it holds space for the conversation so that it doesn't keep getting punted.
Yeah.
So I think this is awesome. It's always such a fun topic. I think we have heard such great feedback from our hubs who have been able to learn from you just in person. I think that's been really transformative for them. We have certainly benefited from all of that work, and we're really excited to just be able to share some of these resources with this community.
You guys are awesome to work with. You have too much fun.
We do have a lot of fun.
We
do have a lot of fun, and we will have resources for folks. And I think we would love it if we can continue this conversation. I know this is just sort of very tip of the iceberg on this topic. So love to bring you back and talk more about it in the future.
Yeah, count me in. Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.